Hello, I'm your host, John Cavendish, and welcome to the Amazon Strategy Show, the show that's all strategy with no hacks, no silver bullets, no magic pills, just real practical strategies for your Amazon business. So, our guest today has been selling products to retailers since 2005, so a lot more years in the industry than I have, and is the owner of Retail Empire. He successfully introduced brands to some of the USA's largest retailers, such as Costco and Walmart, among many others. And he's also sold in almost every possible category. So from e-commerce brands, helping them go into big box retailers in the US. If there's something about retail that Talor does not know, then it probably isn't worth knowing. I let his name go there. So please welcome to the show, Talor Offer.
Hi, thanks for having me today. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. Thanks for coming on the show. And it's nice to know that we know some of the same people in the industry. And we were just talking about Prosper, which I will persuade you to come to one day.
Hopefully next year. Yeah.
it's awesome. I really, really love it. We've got a booth next year again after this year. So tell us a little bit about your journey. Were you living in the US at the time, or have you always been based in Israel? How did you end up helping people get into US retailers?
Yeah, I wasn't living in the USA, although I was visiting a lot. My brother lives there for 2 decades by now. What I did is I went to Asia. My journey started 22 years ago, where I somehow joined to a company who was selling products to retailers, private label. So I found myself doing private label to Walmart and to Costco. And then down the road, we worked with more retailers. We also did some garment denim line for Beyonce in the States. That was a good experience. We did also BCBG and Max Azaria, some famous names. Then I created my own brand. I was in Asia for 12 years, mostly in China and Japan. So I created my own brand and I was started to sell it to different retailers. And one thing led to another. I found myself selling those products to 60 different retailers in the States, which is, in terms of Amazon, it's like having 60 Amazon stores. It's quite insane. It was very, very hectic, very hard to keep up with everything. But that's what we did until 2017, where I got to the point that I understood that if I'm not going to somehow deduct the workload or even stop everything, I'm going to end up in hospital or something, because it was like absolutely insane. So anyway, I started to move it, to close a little bit step by step the business, because it was really too much for me. The volume was absolutely insane. And maintaining 60 retailers at the same time with one brand is absolutely something that you have to be ready for. And I was ready, but not enough, obviously. And then since 2017 up till now, what we do as a company, we are helping Amazon e-commerce brands in general to move from online to offline. So they keep on selling online, they do whatever they do, but we are opening the door to work with retailers. Right now, we work with almost 400 retailers across the US, which is quite a big amount of retailers. Some of them have, 60, 80 stores, some of them 800 like Macy's, or 4,000, more than 4,000 like TJ Maxx, or even 9,900 like CVS. That's the range. It's quite a big range, but that's the range. So if you look at the States overall, there are almost 30,000 retailers. Again, small, big, medium, we count them at the same basket. That's my quick bio. Yeah.
No, I love it. That's an amazing journey. No, really cool bio. So you went from selling to 60 retailers to dealing with 400, but in a different way. So how does that work? I mean, I'm super interested, because I'm sure that most sellers watching and listening to this will have thought about, I'd like to diversify from Amazon. That's the number one thing that sellers say amongst, I want to make more money. How do I diversify from Amazon? So how does the process work with looking to go into retailers?
So at the first step, what we do, we are looking at the brand. If a brand wants to work with us, we look at the brand. We're trying to think, is this something that could work in retail? Because apart from the big fact that you have to be retail ready, and I'll explain what is that, there's even before that, you have to look at the brand and think, is this something that the market would be interested in? Now, pausing on that issue, the numbers are very interesting. And I thought that this is, some bug in my area, because I couldn't believe what I was reading, that the whole online in the States, including Amazon, Walmart, all the online, is not more than 15% of the industry. And I thought, this doesn't make sense. And then I heard it from someone on stage in one of the big conferences back here in Israel, in Tel Aviv, which is where I live. And I was like, okay, It is true. I mean, although I read it, in different places. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that if you have a brand and you're selling products, micro brand, medium brand, it doesn't matter. If you're selling online, it's great, but you're not looking at the biggest market, which is the 85%. Okay. So with that said, what we do, we're looking at the brand and thinking like, is this something that could work? Now, to define if it can work or not, well, first of all, we have a few criteria, although we're trying to be open, because sometimes those criteria doesn't really fit on each and every brand. For instance, one SKU is something that would be very hard to work with in retail, but at the same time, if you come up with a brand that has one SKU or even two, and one of them has a very interesting patent, then it's a whole different scenario. Then the one SKU would be more than enough, because it's something that the market has a wide space for. Now, wide space is a term referring to a situation when there's a place on the shelf for a certain retailer or retailers, and nothing is sitting there. So obviously they could cover it, they could, spread other SKUs, but literally there's white space, there's a space that you could fit your product into. So that's one case. But another case would be like amount of SKUs, as I mentioned. If you have a brand, even if it's casual products like gardening or tools or whatever it is, kitchen, health and beauty, HBC area, you could have things that everyone else has, but as long as you have many SKUs, like let's say at least 15, 20 and above, that's a very good point to have. And second, it really depends on how you present your brand. How's your branding look like? How's your website look like? How your catalog looks like? And most of the brands, by the way, that approaching us do not have catalog. So we have a very fast system. And this is where the second stage comes in, fast system to get a catalog for them. So if we look at the brand and we're saying, okay, this is something that looks a good potential for retail, then we move to the second stage, which is getting it retail ready if it's not already. Okay, that means suitable packaging, good catalog, and some comments on the website, which I find myself doing almost on a daily basis, because most of the micro brands that are selling online or mainly on Amazon, their website does not look as good as it should. I know that people tend to leave it behind, so I'll do it at some point, whatever, but this is very important. Anyway, once that is done, and it's taking a few days, is where we start the money time. And the money time for us, it stop me if I'm going too fast.
No, I love it. So just to summarize so far, you review the brand, you see if it's retail ready, it's a good brand fit, if it's got a patent, so it's an actually unique differentiated product, or if they've got 20 SKUs and they can fill up a section of the shelf. And then it needs a catalog, which most people just don't have.
Correct. And it's not a big deal to have a catalog. It's just a PDF showing the product. We work with a company from, I think they're Pakistani or something, but this company is a company that we sent so many customers to, that now when people are asking them for retail catalog, they know exactly what the vendor is looking for, because they already did tons of them, and I was personally training them how to do it correctly, because I was getting like catalogs like, no, this cannot work. You have to change it here and there. And then by the time, it's been like 5 or 6 years we work with them, so by the time they already understand exactly what we're looking for and how the buyers are seeing those catalogs and everything. So it's a good thing to have. It's an external service, has nothing to do with our business, but it's just good reference that we can give in terms of the catalog. Not a big deal. And then once everything is set, and that usually takes a few days, once people join our system, which I'll explain about later, then we start the sales part. Now the sales part on our side, so what we do is like, we are first of all approaching a few thousands of our buyers, which we work with on a daily basis. And then we're trying to do a match. Like, for instance, if someone comes with, let's say, whatever, electronic items, okay? And let's say I want to sell it to Costco. I want to open the door to Costco. But with Costco, I've been working on different categories, not necessarily with electronic appliance buyers. So I would have to go back to the buyers that I work with, asking them, hey, can you introduce me to electronic buyers? And they would introduce me to the team. And then I go from one guy to another, because they're not certain who is the right guy to talk with. And then eventually we find the right person. We start talking with them. And then we see if there's an interest. And if so, then we go to the sample stage, pricing stage, and order stage. That's in short what happens. But that's only one layer of sales that we do. The second layer is referring to what we call special channels, under the understanding that retail brick and mortar is the major thing that we do, but there's also other channels that we're doing. So the first one would be the online channels of the offline, meaning all the .com, like OfficeDepot.com, Target.com, and so forth, Macy's.com, So this is something that we are doing for the brands more and less for us, because for us it's very hard to track orders when there are online orders. But still, it's a good thing, if you present a brand, let's say to Walmart, and you're saying, hey, we're selling already with Office Depot, they don't necessarily understand if it's OfficeDepot.com or the stores, the in-stores channel, the omni-channel. But hearing those names has, it's like a name dropping. It works in a favor of the brand. So anyway, this is just one of the special channels. We also work with TV segments like Good Morning America show in ABC channel that has the segment of Deals and Steals with Tori Johnson, if people knows her. She's quite a famous figure. And then we work with media companies like QVC and HSN. We work with a lot of subscription boxes. It's a whole entire very big industry, the subscription box. I don't want to pause on that because it's going to take hours, but just, if you are listening to this and go to Google, check about subscription boxes in the USA, you will find a whole great industry that your product might fit. And this is like a very good opportunity. Anywho, that's just the second layer. There are more special channels like magazines, local wholesalers, and so forth. But this is, again, it's a special channel. On the last layer, as I've been working with 60 retailers, as I mentioned before, and it grew to almost 400. And we know that there are 30,000 retailers in the USA. So we are under the assumption that we want, not assumption, but like a target that we want to reach out to as many as we can. So for that, we are running tons of different softwares to find and explore into the market, meaning that we are finding thousands of different new buyers from retailers that we don't work with yet in the market every day. Then we're sending them emails presenting the brands that we're working with, matching between the categories and what we offer them. And then we don't use stuff like Moosend or MailChimp. We do everything one by one, not manually with softwares, but still it's going out through our few hundreds of inboxes, because when you run an operation like that, you have to maintain quite a lot of inboxes, because you cannot send more than 200 or 300 emails a day from an inbox, right? Although it's like a paid inbox, domain. Under domains, we have quite a few domains. I don't even know how many. And then we have a dedicated team. It's what they do. Because when you send 5, 10, 20, 30, even 50,000 emails a day, you're going to expect thousands of emails coming back, and then you have to sort them down, like what's going to the garbage, what is interesting, where is the sample request, where's the business, and where is the crop. Anyway, that's the core of our business. That's how we do the our service, which is called SalesTube, and the service is like a done-for-you service.
I love it. So once they've got their package together, you've got their catalog, that's when you start reaching out. You approach your buyer network, then you look at your special channels, then the third level channels, like subscription boxes are super cool. I have a friend who does a lot of sourcing for those things. Like they ask him for products. They're like, oh yeah, we'll just have 20,000 of those, 50,000 of those, 100,000 of those, like crazy one-off volumes. And then softwares. So for anyone that hasn't really talked into retail before, can you talk a little bit about buyers and how they specialize? Because I think that'd be something that people don't usually talk about.
It varies from retailer to retailer, but let me take, for instance, Walmart as an example. Although I don't really like Walmart as a retailer, but let's talk about them as an example. So if you're talking about, let's say, gardening items, okay, you suppose you have a brand, you're selling hoses or whatever gardening items you're selling, and then you reach out to Walmart. The title of the buyer is, let's say, gardening and outdoor or gardening and hoses, whatever it is. And then you start communicating and you find out that this is not the guy you need to talk with. And then he's moving you to someone else. Why? Because under every division, there's like sometimes 20, 30, 40, or even 100 buyers under the same category. Again, this is Walmart. It's a different example. If you take the same thing with a retailer like, let's say, Nordstrom, for instance, which has, I think, less than 400 stores, for them, you would have 4 or 5 buyers, which is quite easy. And they are more communicative, okay? So different from retailer to retailer. And then you have to keep in mind that buyer is not necessarily exactly what you're looking for. Sometimes you would look for other titles. Now, titles is one of the big secrets. I don't know if secrets, but big thing in the market. So you can search for category manager, which is a very, very common title. And you can look for GMM. So there are, let's say, 10 buyers, as we mentioned before. And on top of them, there's one GMM. and here's reporting to the VP, which reports to the CEO, and so forth. So GMM is a very good title to search for, because then you would be directed to the exact buyer or assistant buyer that you need. But then you have also other titles like SVP. Try to look for it on LinkedIn, which is, by the way, LinkedIn is a very good platform to connect with buyers. It's like, when I look at LinkedIn, I don't really tend to use it right now because we're working in different ways. But when I started my road and I had my connections and I thought, okay, I'm working with 60 retailers, but now I need more. How am I going to do it? And I just started to play with LinkedIn, me and my VAs. And it was like, whoa, this is a gold here. Like, it's not like an email where you don't know where you're standing. It went to spam, maybe they didn't open. It's like you see what's happening, you know what's happening. It's a very communicative platform. And then you know what's the title of the person, and you know if he's from the area you're looking for. So if the guy is from Costco, and you're selling gardening items, gardening tools, and they are, very competitive and good in terms of pricing and branding, then you know that it's something that could fit. And if you're sending the right message to that person, then you have very high, very high chances of getting to a conversation where you're going to end up with, moving forward to orders. So yeah, but for a brand working on LinkedIn and on searching those buyers, it's good. But once you work with more than one brand like we do, then it's a different scale. So our scale is, far beyond that. So we cannot do all those manual work on LinkedIn. But there are tools that sits on LinkedIn, which makes the work for you. But that's a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's really cool. Thanks for diving in. And there's some really good tips there on what titles we should be looking for. You said competitive in terms of pricing. So that's interesting to me. Like, what is competitive in terms of pricing? Because what you sell it at, what margin do they want, and what margin do you want when you're selling to retail?
Very good question. That's exactly what people need to know. So pricing in general, when it comes to retail, if you're selling a product for, let's say, $100, that's the MSRP, retail price. Okay, that's the price, retail price, I would say, just for those who are not sure, the price that you're selling on Amazon or on your website, which, by the way, needs to be aligned. Amazon is also expecting that, but besides Amazon, retailers are expecting that. Because if you tell them to offer the price on their shelf for $100 and you at the same time selling it on Amazon or your website for $80, then you're creating, a conflict. So if it's a retail price of $100, the basic benchmark wholesale price, when I say wholesale price, meaning price for quantities, okay? I'm not talking about 20 pieces, I'm talking about quantities. Yeah. We'll talk about it as well. That would be 50% off of the MSRP, which is $50 in our example. And here is where starts the game. So if you look at companies like we mentioned Nordstrom, for instance, they would pay, because their initial markup, IMU, which is a very interesting, good term to know when you go to talk with retailers. So the IMU, the initial markup, is between 35 to 55% with Nordstrom. Okay, it differs from retailer to retailer. So you know that, and you know that you want to sell for 50, but you know that if your product from some reason would fall on the area of 55% markup for Nordstrom, then you would probably need to go down to around $40, $45. Okay, so you would go to that. But then you have to look at your cost. So if your cost, landed cost, you guys call it COG, cost of goods. We call it LDP. It's the same thing. Landed price, cost of goods, the same term. But if your landed cost is half of the wholesale price, meaning $25 in our example of this product, then you're all good. You're all good because you can sell, because the gap between $25 and $40, $45 or $50, which is the area you're going to sell for, the gap is very good. But if you are buying for $35 or $32, then it starts to be a little bit, cozy. The room starts to be small, and then you have to start to play with the numbers. So, in some cases, we see vendors that are buying, in this particular example, they are buying for $10. So if you buy for $10, you could sell for $20, right? And if the MSRP is $100, then you give a lot of space to the retailer to work with, right? But then at the same time, you have to keep in mind you have competition. If you have, most cases you have. And then you will look at the competition. If the competitor is selling for $120, boom, you are on the highway. But if they are selling for 70 and you're trying to sell for 100, doesn't make sense, right? You have to go down with your MSRP, but you can still do it if you buy for $10. But inside this whole form of pricing, there are exceptions. If you talk with a company like Macy's, they would buy for 50% off the MSRP. But if you talk with off-price retailers such as Rose Stores, Burlington, Home Goods, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, Ocean State Job Lot, Bills of Florida, all these companies are buying for off-price because that's how they operate. Okay, buying for off-price means that they would buy somewhere between 25 to 35% off the MSRP. So if your MSRP is $100, like we just mentioned before, and you want to sell TJ Maxx, they would probably buy for $25. Or if you have an agent involved, they would be willing to pay $30. They're very vendor oriented, so they take in calculation everything. So if you want to sell for $25 and your cost is $25, there's no business here. You would not want to sell it even if you break even, because this is not business. This is bullcrap. Sorry for my French. What you would want to know, what you would want to see is a situation where you can buy it for 12, 15, even 18, and then sell it for $25. And then you have not a lot of profit. You don't double, you don't even do 70%, but then you start counting by the dollar. How many dollars per product am I doing? Even $1. Why? Because, and here we go to quantities, and forgive me for my very long answer.
Well, there's a question actually. If we go into quantities, you mentioned the big retailers, and then there being a certain MSRP, and then these the off-price retailers. Because you don't want to be undercutting Amazon, especially the big retailers, because Amazon's bots will then catch you and suspend your, probably suppress your listing. Can you undercut their pricing at off-price retailers? Is that possible? Or are you still going to be basically selling at your MSRP at every one of these retailers?
So with TJ Maxx, and it's a good example, they have an algorithm that prevents Amazon system or Walmart system to chase what the price your product sells on TJ. And for that, as long as you don't have any policy of minimum price, it's called MAP, minimum advertising policy. If you don't have MAP, they would be selling that $100 product for 70, but they would move more inventory, but then your other platforms would not know about it. So as long as you're good with that, they're good with that. At the same time, if you go and work with a company like Costco, most chances they would change an attribute or even 2 or 3 of them in your product with you to create a situation where the SKU is the same as the product is the same.
Unique SKU.
But then it's unique. It's for them. Yeah. So Amazon or any other customer even or consumer would not be able to come up and say, hey, I bought it for $100. Why is it selling for $60 in Costco? It's a different SKU. It looks a little bit different, changing the packaging, changing some attribute, colors, and so forth. And then it's a complete different so-called item, although it's the same item. Same production line, same factories, same molding, same shape, everything is the same. So that's how they do it. Again, it really depends on how you want to go to market. You want to go to the off-price market, or you want to go to the high-end market, or somewhere in between. But yeah, it's definitely something that they can play with. And when they do so, it's always under communication with the vendor. It's not like they do whatever they want and leave you behind with your question marks.
I get that. So yeah, when you're talking about that with its off-price market, normal market, premium market, like who's interested in Amazon sellers' products? I guess who's interested in what type of products? So why would they want to buy from an Amazon seller?
Who's not? That's the answer. Who's not? Here's the thing. There's a term, I learned that term, I heard it first time from Noel Farrar, the guy with the bird. It was, how did he define it? The rise of the micro brands. And this is, in one sentence, defining exactly what's happening in the market. There's a rise of the micro brands. Like, in old times, you would see retailers buying from big importers or very big brands. That is not the situation in the last 4 or 5 years. They are very open to work with small vendors. There's even a program for Target, which is called Target Plus for the online channel. And the whole program is to create a situation where small brands with 5, 10, 15 SKUs would be able to launch their products with Target online marketplace, while the real aim of this launching is eventually to see what brands are selling good, and then they can take them to the stores. Okay, There's a huge request for that. Plus, in old times, buyers would fly to exhibitions like, in LA, in Vegas, in Jersey, and so forth. And they would spend tons of money, because sending a buyer to an exhibition with all the cost around it cost them between $10,000 to $15,000. Now imagine a group of 5 buyers, 10 buyers, 20 buyers. It's a lot of money. Now it works differently, because they know that those vendors are sophisticated enough to reach out to them. So they don't need even, you don't even, need to move from their workspace, from their computer. Everything happens, very fast and very easily. And that's why we're seeing that the exhibitions are going a little bit down and down. But anyway, so the answer is, yeah, definitely yes. And I think there's another thing for them where they understood at some point that leaning their whole basket of products with 3 or 4 or 5 big importers is very risky, because you're putting all the eggs in one basket. Plus, you don't know if there are more interesting and nice similar parallel SKUs that are out there in the market that you're missing, and you're missing trends. And this is something that they know that the micro brands has, because micro brands, as small organizations, they can move very fast. They can change SKUs very fast. They can add patterns. The whole thing happens very quick. You don't tend to see many big companies who are able to do it. So for instance, if you're talking about a company like Nike, they have, I don't know, millions of styles, because they are walking fast, and this is what makes them what they are. But most of those big organizations, they are not, creating or changing SKUs that fast. And for that, when it comes to trends and to the market awareness, it's much better for retailers to work with micro brands.
Oh, I love that. As a micro brand, brand owners are quicker, more agile. They can just churn things out a lot more quickly and be on trend. So that's really, really cool. I like that a lot. Right. And then you were going to talk about volumes. So how do they judge how much what an initial volume is, and then how does it kind of ramp up over orders?
So they judge obviously by numbers. Everything is numbers in retail, the same way that it is everywhere. Like, you look at your margin, you have a plan, you know what you need to sell for, you know how the competition has. They have their own forms of defining that. But in general, I would say it like that. Most of the retailers, Tuesday morning and all on price, off price, they would probably, TJ Maxx as well, they would usually take a test order of between 400 to 600 pieces per SKU. Costco would take, usually they would take between 16 to 32 stores. They would take 1 or 2 pallets. So that depends how many products you have on a pallet. No, most of the products are between 120 to 200 units on a pallet. So talking about, let's say, 200 products for 2 pallets is 400, and then multiply by 16, you're gonna end up with quite a big order as a test order. But they would pull every drop of energy from your body before you get that order. Why? Because they want to make sure that it's gonna fly in the stores. And once it does, that's where they get back to you saying, okay, now you're gonna have not 2 but 4 pallets every store, but that's gonna be multiplied by 500 stores. Now think about the number. So it's insane. Yeah. And by the way, you cannot just get an order like that from Costco, because they're going to want to know what's the turnover of your company every year, and they would be able to give you up to value of 20% of that. So if your company is doing, let's say, $10 million a year, you're going to be able to get not more than $2 million of an order from Costco per year. That's their policy, because they're trying to minimize the risk. But that's only with Costco. Now, there are exceptions. The exceptions are the subscription boxes, which could take, as you mentioned before, 20, 40. I've even seen 167, it was, I don't know, 160,000 units in one order for subscription box. The price is super low. They are killing you with the price, but the quantity is crazy. And that's because they have millions of subscribers, and they have to justify, and they have to put products in this subscription box that they're providing their consumer every month. But that's a different story. But going back to retailers, if you look at companies which are unique, like Nordstrom, they have a very precise method, which I'm not exposed to. I wish I would, but I'm not.
Mm.
They know how to take a product before they even order it. They know how much it's going to make per, they calculate per square foot and per the cost and the rent and electricity, blah, blah, blah. But they even know how to predict the sales for that product. So overall, what's going to happen is that I had a test order last year with Nordstrom, with one outdoor company, gardening company. No, it was kitchen appliance, not kitchen, home and kitchen section. Yeah, not appliances. Anyway, the first order was $105,000. It was across, I think, almost 10,000 pieces. And I was like, whoa, if that's the test, what's going to happen in the bulk order? But the bulk order never came because they sold the inventory, but they never wanted to take the risk again. I don't know why. Doesn't matter. Maybe it'll come back again this year for the summer. We'll see about it. But anyway, they are more, let's say, they are more of a so-called gambler, okay? Because they take the chances. They know how to predict. So, yeah.
Oh, that's really, really cool. I like that. So if they're ordering from you, depends on your business size, how much they order or whatever their rules are. But what kind of contract terms and payment terms they're looking at? So if they're taking risk on this, are there some risk in the contract? They might want you to take back inventory they don't sell. And what kind of payment terms do they want to give you?
Okay, so there's no consignment in retail. I've never seen any consignment, like you putting the goods, and if they don't sell it, you take them back. Doesn't exist. They don't work that way. And for that reason, most of them are doing test order in around 400, 500, 600 units per SKU. But the payment terms is something that is not easy to deal with, because payment terms are never not deposit and not cash. That means that you're going to ship the goods and then wait about 15 to 25 or even 35 days for your money, which is called net plus 15, net plus, there's even net plus 60. It's always negotiable. That's the good part. I've been in a call. That was funny. I have to tell you about it. I was in a call for the first time. When was it? It was this week with iHerb. I guess, iHerb, quite a famous platform.
Yeah, I got some orders and stuff from there last week.
Yeah, who doesn't? And anyway, there's one supplement brands we work with. So we took them to that call, and it was a very good call. I was asking about, vendor manual terms and everything. I was trying to understand on the pricing area, how it works with them. She didn't really give me the answer, but what she did say is that we work net plus 30, 45, and obviously we can take it down to net plus 30. Now, I was stuck with her saying, obviously. Why is it obvious that you can go down to net 30? I mean, I'm saying it in my podcast, but I never heard anyone saying it out loud like this as a buyer. So that was very good to hear that, because the way it's obvious for me, it's obvious for them. Long story short, payment terms are negotiable, but it's always net plus something. So you'll have to know that.
And then do you actually help them secure funding for these deals ever? Because I guess these can be quite big deals compared to their cash.
That's true. We are not a financial, we are not a factor or anything like that, but we can introduce to big factors in the USA, specifically factors that are working towards the retail industry. When you say factor, for those who are not sure what it is, it's a company who finance your order. And such companies, they know that you need to produce in China, ship it, get it receivable in your warehouse, and only then ship it to the retailer within the US. And they take all this process inside their calculations. So when they need to finance your order, they know you need to pay 30% for the order and then 17% to release it in most cases. Most of us do not have any credit from our Chinese or Indian manufacturer. Those who has, brilliant. This is the best thing to have on earth. But in reality, most of us do not have it, that kind of credit line. So yeah, there are factors that could solve this issue.
Yeah, love it. And one more question from me then that I was interested in is kind of on like insurances and things like that, because I know that a lot of e-commerce sellers aren't insured in the way they should be anyway. So what kind of level of insurance do they need to be able to do this?
So liability is normally around $1 million liability. I'm not sure how much it costs monthly, but that's the insurance they want, up to 1 million. There are exceptions, like with Academy Sports. Academy Sports is not a big retailer. They have a few hundreds of stores. But even if you sell on academy.com, they expect you, I've seen that last week, they expect you to have liability of $2 million. So that would probably be a few hundreds of dollars for the vendor to pay to have that kind of liability, I guess. I'm not really sure 100% about it. But then that's what normally they expect. And with Academy, it's worth it because the last order I've seen to their retail stores, and that was, I think, last November, it was $1.4 million only for a line of fleece, jackets.
Yeah.
So they have not too many stores, but they're moving quantities very, very fast. So worth it.
I love it. And to be honest, your service is the first service I've heard of that does this full end to end, actually supporting people in doing this.
That's true. I mean, most of the rep agents, they would open the door for you and they would not do anything that much afterwards because that's not what they do. Plus, most of the rep agents work with somewhere between 5, 10, or maximum 20 retailers, while we work with far more than that. We are also under the assumption that online vendors would not know what the process is with retailers. So you need to work with them hand by hand, which is normal because when a buyer sends an email, most cases the Amazon seller or e-commerce seller would look at it saying, what language is this? What's happening here? Like, what is this? EDI? What's EDI? What are all these terms? They don't even know what is expected to be responded on that. So that's where we step in, and we are guiding the whole thing from reaching out to the buyers, but also up to the point where they're getting purchase order shipped and collection account receivable point of getting the money.
Oh, that's great. So actually hold the hand through all of it and making sure they get paid as well.
Exactly.
How do you charge for that?
So we have, our model is based on percentage. We work between 7 to 10%, and that a variety of percentage is because it depends on the landed cost. So remember, we spoke about pricing. So if your cost of goods on that $100 retail price case would be 25, and then you're doubling doing 50, cool, we take 10%. But if you are ending up selling to TJ Maxx for $25 while you buying it for $20, then it wouldn't make sense for us to take 10%, and that's where we starting to go down. Apart from that, because of all the efforts and insane expenses we have just to get your foot in the door, we also, the service starts as a subscription. You subscribe to our sales tube. I should say link below, right? There's no link below. I don't know.
It will appear.
It will appear. Okay, great. So the subscription is $9.99 a month. Honestly saying, it's not really covering the expenses we have for each and every brand, but it's, I would say this is part of our risk to be involved also with assets into this and with money running on all this process, because we take brands that we believe will sell. If they don't sell at some point, which is very quick, we're going to stop them and say, hey, something is not moving properly here. Because our main goal and main financial structure of the company is all these orders coming in. If there's no orders, there's no reason to do all this thing that we're doing.
That makes sense. And what's your kind of success percentage? Do you have that data from the people you actually take on and you believe in?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say like that. There are, I guess, around 50 brands we work with right now, more or less. There were times we were working with more. There were times we were working with less. But I would say out of these 50, I'm seeing very clearly that probably 5 or 7 of them will not sell. We will have to stop them sooner or later because it doesn't look it goes anywhere. But the rest of them is either selling or on the way to sell. What means on the way? If we start selling a brand and in the first few 3 to 6 weeks, we're seeing that buyers returning to us saying, hey, this is interesting. What's the pricing? Show me samples. Let's go on a Zoom call. So the process is heavy. I've just seen an email this morning. Who was it? One of the retailers. I think it was Dick's Sporting Goods. I'm not sure. But my partner from Canada, which is something to mention, Aaron Harvage. So my partner in Canada responded to them, and they are trying to schedule a call for May 15. Now we are still in March. So the process is heavy. So anyway, going back to your question, if we do see that things are moving within the first 3 to 6 weeks, we are all feeling all good and everything is, as it should be. The fastest one would see actual purchase orders within the first month. The normal ones would see that between 3 or 4 months, and the slower one would see it within the first year. I would say it like that. Forget about our service for a second. If you're trying to do it yourself, which is fine, and I encourage people to do it, if you're doing it for a year and you haven't seen any result, that means that your brand would not work in retail, not at this stage. Okay. A year is a normal time of doing it, but we are trying to do it within 2 or 3 months, at least to get the first few orders. Otherwise, again, it's a waste of time and assets.
And I guess you guys are doing it at a much higher volume than if someone was doing it themselves.
Yeah, we're doing it. Our volume is crazy. I mean, I know the volume. I know what to compare because I was doing it as a brand owner, and I was doing it. It took me quite a while to get to those 60 retailers. I started, with Macy's, and then Kate Spade came in, and then Urban Outfitter, Anthropology. When I had 5 or 6 of them on the plate, I thought that I'm on top of the world, because working with 5 retailers is, wow, it's insane. It's a lot of work, and it's very confident building in terms of the brand. So I know what to compare to, and the scale we're doing it's almost beyond our abilities. That's the truth. Like it's going insane. Yeah.
Well, I love it. That's super cool. So, I mean, is there anything else that I should be asking you? Anything I haven't asked?
Anything else? I mean, there's tons of information that I could talk about when it comes to retail. I would say I don't know. There's different aspects of the business, but I would say that if you want to sell to retailers, even if you want to do it yourself or with us, it doesn't matter. But just keep in mind that you have to be stubborn and you have to believe your brand. And this belief, as I see it, you might think it's surprising what I'm going to say. This belief and faith in your brand is most cases more important than the actual products. I've seen products, brands with 5 SKUs going crazy in the market versus 3, 4, 500 SKUs, very unique ones in a niche category. They were not able to get it, not even a single order. But the vibe of the vendor was a whole different story. So you have to believe in your brand. And I think the most important part, besides social media and everything, the most important part is to invest time in your branding, meaning how the visibility, how your colors look like on the website. Do you have the right persona of the brand? So for instance, if I'm selling recyclable items and my whole website and packaging and everything is red and yellow, then I'm doing something wrong. It should be gray and green, right? Those are the colors for recyclable areas. While if I'm selling something that should be relaxing and I'm trying to use green color, then shouldn't be that good. It should be light blue. It should be, calming down colors and so forth. So this is colors, branding, persona. Think about, you're not an Amazon seller. You are a brand owner. That's what I'm trying to say here. As a brand owner, you want to grow the brand. You want to create a story around it. That's the most important part, I think. Because once you present it to others, friends, family, buyers, it doesn't matter. They like it because they see the story. They see that you have something created here, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for sharing. And what we'll do is we'll share your links as well below this, and also at the end when we'll ask you to share your stuff. So we have got on to the next part of the show, which is the game.
Ooh.
In this game, we have a spin the wheel, and very, very kindly, Talor has put forward three prizes to add to the wheel. As always, we're going to add these to the wheel. If you want to enter, please enter with the link below this video, wherever it is, or on the screen right now, so that you can enter with a chance to win these prizes or many, many others, because we're going to keep you in there going forwards and introduce you to the person that provides them if you win. Talor has very kindly put forward 1 20-minute consultation to review your brand and advise about options for retail. I'd love that one. 2, for advanced brands, 3 introductions to potential buyers, which are different retailers. And 3, 50% off the first month of the service sales tube. So, actually helping you get ready and get to market and get your first order within hopefully 3 months.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's bring up the wheel. So, Talor, you are in control. By that, I mean you need to say spin that wheel, and the wheel will spin magically for you.
Spin that wheel.
Oh, very, very cool. Econ Balance, $500 worth of bookkeeping credit. So Nate from Econ Balance was on the show a few weeks ago, And if you want to get some free bookkeeping credit, make sure your books are up to date. I mean, that's super important, and they seem pretty good with e-commerce businesses.
Cool.
All right, next one. Should we do it again?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Spin the wheel.
Amazing marketing. So yeah, free listing audit or consultation. So if you want to win that, please enter the competition, and then we're going to remove that one and spin it one more time.
Spin the wheel.
The Israeli Carol Vorderman. It's an English person on game shows. All right, Amazing at Home.
Amy Weiss.
With Amy Weiss. Yes, with Amy. So yeah, we will introduce you personally to Amy, and she will do a video review of your listing for you personally. Amazing. Amy is everywhere.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you so much, Maestro. Please remove that wheel. Thank you, Talor. So we have one more part, which is the rapid fire questions. But before that, we have a question we ask every single guest on the show, which is, what is one strategic element you think most people are missing when selling on Amazon? Or maybe selling in general?
Okay. I would say think omni-channel. Just think about and explore other channels. Amazon is great, is nice, is beautiful. Walmart as well, but there are tons of different channels you can sell your very same products at.
Yeah, it's a great one. Thank you. So, rapid fire questions. There are 7 questions, quick answers, whatever comes to mind first. No pressure, except a lot of pressure. So, all right. The rapid fire questions. 1, what is your favorite Amazon niche or e-commerce niche?
I would say gardening.
If you could choose no pictures or no reviews, which would you pick?
No reviews.
Name a country that starts with the letter T.
Tanzania.
Good one. Which Amazon marketplace is the next big opportunity?
Amazon stores, physical stores, they started already.
I went to a Fresh recently. It was very cool. Except you couldn't get in without your credit card. Very annoying. And you can't get the bill until 30 minutes after you leave to check it's right. Very frustrating.
Oh.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No, big no-no.
Not in Tel Aviv. Name something appealing about working from home.
That you can choose between home and office.
Name something you'd hate to find swimming around in your bathtub.
Kids' toys. My kids' stuff. It's
getting lodged into you.
It's annoying.
I get that. Awesome. Well, Talor, thank you so much for being on the show. And if people want to reach out to you, connect with you, follow you around the internet, where's the best way to do that?
Well, few of them. I have a group on Facebook, not historically active, but the most active thing I have is a WhatsApp group, a silent one where only me posting, or my partner, once a day only. And it's like, topics about retail, very informative topics. And it's also real-time requests from buyers. So if a buyer is asking me for a certain product or niche, I post it on that group. It's a WhatsApp group. Not all of us are using WhatsApp, but those who are, it's amazing. And again, the Facebook group and the WhatsApp group.
No, I love it. Yeah, I mean, everyone outside the US is using WhatsApp. But what I learned while I was in the US last week is not everyone in the US is using WhatsApp. They're still texting.
That's true. Even if they have, they don't have notification from WhatsApp. So it's like left behind. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's so interesting. And that's something that we should go into at some other point, which is, why has the US still beyond text messages?
I mean, I'm jealous in a way because, this WhatsApp is like, it's like part of your life, sometimes over, so yeah.
Yeah. Many groups.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Thanks to everyone who's watched this episode, watched the recording, watched the video, listened to it on any platform. If you've liked it, please do subscribe and leave us a review somewhere, wherever you're watching, because reviews really, really help us to reach more people. So until then, I'm John Cavendish. Thank you for listening to the Amazon Strategist Show.
Thank you for having me today. Pleasure being here.